What's up, y'all? I'm here today with a little bit of a different video. Here's my settings and my sensitivity. I'm going to be doing a little bit of a breakdown for some of the settings. And here we go. Let's start with the video settings. 165 Hz. I don't play on performance mode. I play on regular DX11. And I also don't play with FreeSync on. If I did play with FreeSync on, I would cap my frames slightly below my refresh rate, so you're always in the FreeSync range. But anyways, I play with default brightness, trait to nope at 4. I have motion blur off. I have every graphics setting basically as low as possible other than my 3D resolution. Moving on to my audio settings. I do play with 3D headphones on. That is a little bit different. I just feel like I like the sound better when it's on 3D headphones. Visual sound effects, you gotta have that on. Here's my game settings. These are arguably the most important. So I have toggle sprint on. I have auto open doors on. So sometimes you get in these little fights close range where you can burst through the door and you don't even have to press open. You're just running to it and it'll open. I have mantle activation on hold jump. I have it on hold jump so that I purposefully mantle. I used to run into this issue when I had it on hold forward where you'd be running around in a corner and then you would mantle on top of whatever you were running at by accident, and that got me killed too many times, so I have it on hold jump. Same goes for the hurdle activation. I'd rather press a button than just have my left joystick forward. I think it's way too easy to accidentally do something when it's just on hold forward. Hold to swap pickup. This is definitely preference. There's not much advantage either way. Depending on what settings you have for your preset loadout order, this can either be a good thing or a bad thing. I like to override my preferred item slots sometimes, and the only way to do that is by holding a swap pickup. So that's what I have it on. I have auto pickup weapons on. I like to just run around, loot, and pick up stuff early game. Obviously, when you're looting a body, you're going to be specific on where you're looking to pick up certain items. So either way, this isn't the most important setting, but I do like to be able to pick up items early game without having to be as precise. Now, this is one of the most controversial settings, preferred item slots. Some people like to have their AR in their first slot. Some like to have their shotgun in their first slot. Some people do other abstract versions of this. Here is what I do. Now, for builds players, obviously you want your shotgun in slot 1 so that when you go from builds back to pickaxe, back to your weapons, you're automatically on the shotgun for close range fight when you're box fighting. That's where this came from. I used to play builds. I've been playing since Chapter 1 Season 2. So I've pretty much always had my shotgun in my first slot as long as I can remember. And then I like to have my heals in my third slot. I like to have my shockwaves in my fourth slot, or my movement item in my fourth slot, and then my assault rifle in my fifth slot. So I just have so much muscle memory from switching to my shockwaves, double tap RB or R1, and you get to your shotgun. That's what most times happens when you want a shockwave anyways. You want a shockwave towards somebody, get in a close range fight, get with your shotgun. I just feel like this is the best way. Loadout slot 2, it depends, because if I'm sniping, then I want my spray weapon in slot 2 and then my sniper in slot 5. But I haven't really been sniping for multiple seasons now, since probably early Chapter 5. So I keep my loadout slot 2 unassigned. I could take a pistol. I could take, during the bug season, I ran double shotguns with the revolver and the sentinel. So it just depends. I leave this one unassigned so that whatever gun I pick up, if it's not an AR, it ends up in my second slot. Now moving on. If you don't have preferred item slots, or you like to have your consumables on the right, then this is a great setting. I'm a zero build player, so the building settings aren't necessarily important. Tap to search interact. This is hidden in the bottom of the extra game options. This is one of the most important settings. This should be at the top. When you have tap to search to interact, you can reboot by just pressing square or X without having to hold it. And also when you open a chest, you can just tap the button and it'll open it instead of having to hold the button, and if you don't hold it long enough, then you have to reopen the chest, things like that. So I just have it on. If you're having performance issues, I would have record replays off, but considering I have a decent PC, I leave it on so I can check if a streamer's gotten into my game or if a streamer killed me or whatever. Moving on to game UI, I have my reticle on. I turned off the reticle ammo indicator. I didn't like on SMGs how much just visual clutter all the little bullets being shown on the screen were right in the middle of your screen when you're trying to aim, so I turned that off. I have damage numbers on cumulative. Now I have it on cumulative. This is personal preference. I like to see how much damage I've done. With SMGs, if an SMG does like 13 damage and you hit somebody 14 times, in real time, are you really going to know how much damage you've done? Most likely not. So I have it on cumulative. You know, I'd rather see if I hit somebody for 152 with an SMG or 183. It's a big difference, especially in zero build because of how much more health you have. I have my damage number scale on 109. I set it to 109 because it mostly matched the scale from OG Fortnite damage numbers. I like to keep it about the same. That's preference. My HUD scale, I have definitely lower than default. I still want to be able to see how much ammo I have for certain weapon types and stuff, but I do like to have my screen less cluttered. It makes the map smaller. It makes the inventory screen smaller. So you can just see more of your screen when you have the HUD smaller. Definitely preference, but I like to see more of my screen. Now moving on to the most important part, the controller settings. I play on exponential curve. I play very unusual settings. You're going to see what I mean in a second. I would say that sensitivity is such a hard thing to give advice for because it's so much personal preference. It's so much what controller you have. Do you play with tall sticks? What type of dead zone do you prefer, etc. So this is tailored towards me. I've been playing first-person shooters since 2011 with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. Played Call of Duty up until I played Fortnite in Chapter 1 Season 2. And then around Chapter 2 Season 6 when Primal came out, I was not feeling the game and I went to play Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War until Chapter 3 started. And then I've been playing Fortnite since Chapter 3. Solid till now. So I've only missed 2 or 3 seasons throughout the whole Fortnite's existence. I would say I'm a veteran player. I'm a zero build sweat. So with that out of the way, here we go. Slide hold time is another important setting. I have it on 0.05. You want this as low as possible without accidentally activating your slide when you don't want to. I slide with a paddle on my controller. Now I do play with vibration. This is a hot topic. This is controversial. I do play with vibration. I don't think it hurts my aim. I think it actually helps my awareness more because I feel like my body reacts to the vibration from being shot faster than my eyes can even see what's happening. And so I just feel unusual when I have this off. It's different when I have vibration off. So I put vibration on. I don't play with quick weapon. I also don't play on default sensitivity. I play on advanced settings. Here's the advanced settings. I play on 42% horizontal, 39% vertical with 0 boost on my look sensitivity. But then on my ADS sensitivity, I play 12% horizontal, 17% vertical, and then here's where it gets weird. I do play with boosts. I play with 5% horizontal ADS boost and 6% vertical boost, with my ADS boost ramp time at 0.2. And then I have my dampening time at 0.0. I do not want dampening. Dampening is the time it takes to reach the expected look rotation speed after applying initial input to the stick. I play on exponential. I play with the lowest dead zones possible, 5% and 5%. Dead zone is essentially the center of your joystick and how big of a gap from where your center stick location is to how long you have to move your stick before it's recognized as an input. So I have my dead zones low. Now here's my actual controller mapping. I play on an Xbox layout controller. It's not a default Xbox controller though. I crouch with Y, but I have crouch set to my bottom right paddle. So I crouch with my ring finger on the back of my controller. I have sprint on bottom D-pad, and I have that mapped to an extra shoulder button on in between my trigger and my L1 button. So I kind of hold the controller normally, and then my left index finger is pressing sprint, not my thumb. I jump with A, but I have jump on a lower left paddle. So I jump on the left paddle and I crouch on my right paddle. I reload with X. I have that on with my normal. I take my thumb off my thumbstick and then press X to reload. I have pickaxe on my right D-pad, and I have that set to an extra shoulder button on the right. So I sprint with my left index finger and I press pickaxe with my right index finger on the top of my controller. I have place marker on the left D-pad, and I use my left thumb to do that. And I have default map button, default inventory button. Now, aside from the settings themselves, I'm gonna go into my refresh routine. Like if I'm not playing for a few days and I want to hop back on and get used to how the game feels again, I'll play this map. Once you load up on the map, this map's by Teadoh. The code's at the top of the screen. I'm not affiliated or paid or sponsored by this guy or anything, but he's a decently well-known YouTuber, and he's been making maps for a long time. And here's how I would usually have my inventory. I have my AR in my right slot, shotgun in the first slot, and then my spray weapon in my second slot, depending on if I'm carrying a spray weapon. So I just go here, I click replay, and you can select 0 build. You can either have instant reload or instant reload off, and then I usually have 3 bots. So once you get in the map, this is what it looks like. And then I like to just start aiming at some AIs. Getting used to how my controller feels if I haven't played in a couple days. And this map does give actually pretty good XP, so if you're trying to level up the battle pass, it's not bad. For sensitivity concerns, if you're trying to find the perfect sensitivity, this map is pretty good at allowing you to kind of get a feel for how it feels and what adjustments you need to make. In general, you want to feel comfortable with what your sensitivity is. You want to have muscle memory. You want to feel like where you're aiming and where your reticle is actually located is in sync. Now, I'll probably make a future video on some tips on how to aim at a more proficient rate and tips for like ideal ranges of your sensitivity. My sensitivity is a decent spot to start, but considering most people play linear and they're not used to exponential, take it with a grain of salt, you know? If you're on linear, it's going to take a long time before you feel comfortable on exponential. And if you're on build mode, I would stay on linear. That's what I always had. I was on linear. Once 0 build came out, I was still on linear. I didn't switch to exponential until Chapter 4, when the red-eye assault rifle meta became really popular, and a lot of your gunfights were at longer ranges. And because exponential, it takes more stick input to have more sensitivity. You can make more minor adjustments long range by barely moving your stick. So I always felt more comfortable that way.
Bruh, there was 2. No, that wasn't 1. What the fuck? Bro, what the
This map is great at allowing you to have rapid combat, not have to worry about reloading, and use all of the weapons currently in the new season. A sign that your sensitivity is dialed in and you're very comfortable with it is the ability to do flick shots. You know, and flick shots on exponential curve are much different than linear because you're not having a consistent speed. So the more you move your joystick, the faster it's going to move. So if you make minor adjustments, it's going to move slower, and then more major adjustments on your stick, it increases in speed. So flick shots can feel abnormal, especially if you haven't played on exponential for a long time. But a good sign is that when you can, you know, look at somebody roughly but not have your reticle on them, and then quickly get there. You know, if you're looking like this, then your sensitivity probably isn't dialed in. You want to be able to quickly flick shot. Not every gunfight you're gonna have the time to make precise aiming. And also, where you set your eyes is important too. Are you looking at the opponent, or are you looking at where your reticle is? I would say I do a little bit of both. When I'm aiming long range, I'm definitely looking more so where the target is than where my reticle is. And you're just letting your hand-eye coordination do the rest. But in close range, I would say your crosshair placement is extremely important. So I'm looking where the reticle is at close range. Back to the flick shots. It's a lot easier to flick from right to left because of the way that this is a third-person game and you're aiming from your right shoulder. So if you can get comfortable at flick shots going from left to right, it's gonna be a major advantage, because those fights that feel unorthodox, like somebody going around a right-hand peak, you know, if somebody's on a right-hand peak, it's much easier to aim. But if you're going left to right, you gotta be quick. Now, obviously, you're not going to hit every single flick shot, but if you can get comfortable, you'll find yourself having a lot more success in game. Obviously, you can push it to extremes. Not very realistic, but it's a good sign that your sensitivity's really dialed in. And I do play with boosts on ADS, as you guys know now. So I find that helpful when people are flying and gliding in and using the wingsuit. Movement speed is much faster than normal, so you know what feels good when an enemy's at their base movement speed and what feels good when they're moving much faster. It's different, you know. So I have a slight boost so that when people are flying or gliding ahead and they're moving at a much faster speed, I'm able to match their movement speed more easily. And I came from linear, where I was playing on like 43% X and Y and around 6% to 7% ADS with 5% dead zones. So that gives you kind of an idea of how fast I was comfortable on linear and then what I ended up playing on exponential. I hope you learned something. I hope you at least enjoyed the video. If you did, leave it a like. And I know it's a little bit different from my normal skin combo video, but if you have any requests of skins that you want combos for, let me know in the comments. I'm probably not going to be doing very many videos aside from skin combos, but if you have any requests or anything, let me know.